Okay, so we'll be reviewing this rotation. And first I want to talk about high tide grillers. So I want to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
The Rapid Blaster should be filtering small fries full time. So that the other weapons, mainly that have DPS rolls, shouldn't have to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Rapid Blaster doesn't really contribute that much DPS. It's better off dealing with small fires, which does actually do more total damage, I think. And something I want to say about Rapid Blaster is your job isn't to simply just kill small fries, but to protect the DPS from getting hit by small fries. So let's say there are small fries here from the previous Squiller. Like, you can afford not to shoot them if they're not harassing you. Instead, it's better to, like, shoot the small fries by the DPS so that they don't get bothered, especially because Sploosh and Dapples are short range. If they get pushed back, then they're not gonna be hitting the Griller. Like, you can shoot here, shoot behind you, shoot here, shoot behind you, until, like, all the small fries behind you are dead. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Number one priority, protect the other players from small fries. So here, to keep things predictable, and to not mistake which side to go to, let's make the grillers go here, whoever's targeted, when they're coming from either of these directions.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
I previously mentioned before that we should be able to adapt to whichever side the aggro player is going to, but I think this is just better because we know what to expect. But regardless, try to keep an eye on where the aggro player is. But we should expect that they're going here, even if they're like in the middle here when the gorilla's coming up. Just expect them to go here, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
So if you're worried if you're standing here and this gorilla is coming, just make sure you're standing here past this metal ring. And it'll still lure the gorilla straight. And also, if the gorilla makes it to here when they're coming from the intersection side, you don't want it to go past this point. Because remember, Sploosh and Dapples are short range, and they're the main stunners and damage. So if the Griller, like, goes past, then it'll be out of range for the DPS weapons. So if it comes here, during its turn toward here, the aggro player can step over here to make the Griller turn this way, so that the aggro, I mean not the aggro players, but the DPS weapons have more of a chance to stun the Griller. Because the Griller is stalled here longer because it has to turn this way. And even then, I don't think we'll reach that point if we're playing well. But farther than that, if the Griller is about to move this way and hasn't been stunned yet, this player can go back up here to make it keep turning in the same spot, so that it doesn't move. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, so here's something I've shown before, but I wanted to go over it again. It's when you kill the grillers too early and the eggs start piling up. So I think right now it's fine because it's early in the wave and there's not much going on. But soon we'll see that it's gonna get too much.
Yeah. Do remember that you're just unable to run the eggs.
Yeah, because the grillers keep running the eggs over and blocking them. Ideally, we'd want eggs to begin piling up and then the direction to change, And then that's when you'd use Ray to solo stun Grillers while the other 3 players run eggs. Which we'll see in a later video I'm gonna show. But they just kept coming from this direction, and it made things difficult. Okay, that's exactly what I was talking about before. Like the gorilla going past. You don't want that to happen.
Bicouli said that no back spawns makes things harder. Yeah.
Yeah. So try not to be too hasty with the stuns. And here's pretty much
Two
the
rays.
same.
Okay, cool. Let's go this.
Here's pretty much the same spawns from the same side, but it's handled way better.
Let it reach fast.
If the grillers are coming from there, we can kill both early. And here I think it's fine to kill them early, though that one did make it past. They may want to lure a little closer. Oh, by the way, none of the weapons should be throwing bombs to damage the griller. Unless it's spawn rushing.
Going this way.
Because the DPS is just too high to warrant using bombs, and also we have Rapid Blaster already filtering small flies.
Same direction.
Rapid Blaster shouldn't be throwing bombs either, it should be using its normal blasts. Bombs just use too much ink,
I'll take them.
and because of how fast-paced Grillers is, we need all the ink we can get. Also, if you're DPS and you have Bomb Rush, remember that you can throw 2 bombs and then start shooting the Griller for a couple seconds, and then throw 2 more bombs and then alternate. Just so you can maintain your high DPS.
This was so long ago.
Yeah. Right there at the end, I didn't notice I had the aggro. So like right here, you can see the laser, right? I could have just gone straight past. And then lured the griller back here.
Dealer.
Big last one.
And then everyone would have gotten the eggs just fine. So that's like the big difference when you're luring the intersection grillers closer when they're coming from that direction the whole time. And then we saw here that the ray was used on the opposite side, which allowed everyone to run eggs. Here's one of the most ideal scenarios you can get. Although this is the opposite side, I didn't use Ray because we were in a good position to stun them normally. And also I just happened to be there as Dapple, so I didn't Ray. I'm out of ink as dapples and everyone is collecting eggs, so I lay here. To make sure we get the stun. So now eggs are piling up, and then we hear a this way for the other side. And now our ray is used, to stun the opposite direction and to let people on eggs. That's a close lure. And that's the 90. So something I wanted to say about the dapple usage when stunning. So first things first. Notice how the griller pauses there for half a second? There's actually a small turn here.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can catch that. It's when the center of the griller is in line with the edge of the metal ring. So Dappos wants to be about here by the edge so that it can shoot the tail during that moment. But also, Dappos or Sploosh shouldn't be the only ones over here. There should be a second player. Like, obviously we would want both Sploosh and Dappos to be there, but that's not going to be the case every time. So let's try to have either Dappos or Sploosh and 96 on stunning duty. And also, you don't want to overcommit to turreting with Dappos. Like here, I'm the only one shooting it. And I'm missing a few shots, so that should be an immediate red flag that I should begin walking and expect the griller to get past the area. Like right there. And right here too. I should have begun walking toward the griller. Oh, also, at the end, the splashdown wasn't necessary here, because the griller was pretty much about to die a millisecond, like, after the splashdown landed. So let's say the splashdown was kept, and I stunned this griller as it was coming up, and it got stunned here. I think that could have been 93 at most, maybe 94. If the splashdown was saved for this griller, and I stunned it with Dapples when it was coming up here. So know when you can push the splashdown further for the last griller. If it looks like the last griller is going to die, I mean, the second to last griller is going to die and we can get the eggs without splashdown, then keep your splashdown for the last one, just in case we can fit in one more egg. Maybe the host can run a single egg in the final second.
Alright.
Now on to rush. So when they're coming from both sides like this, I think it'll be better to have the DPS weapons split up and for the Agwood player to stay between them. So here you can see Sploosh is on this side, which is the last side, and Dappos is on the new side. Now during this moment when you're still clearing out the old side, try not to focus on filtering ahead too much. Instead, try to make sure that all the charms and goldies are killed before they reach the Agwood player. We're gonna see that in this wave right here.
There it is. Okay.
Now, I know there's G blasters, but Sploosh and Dappos is pretty good as well, I'd say. It's about equal. On High Tide Rush on Polaris, killing the spawns like this isn't that important because... I mean, it isn't as important, but it's still good to do. Though on the next rotation, we're not going to be able to do that much because we don't have, like... a good blaster like G Blaster or Luna or Class Blaster.
Yeah.
Rapid is okay, but the rush is too fast for it to get everything.
It's gonna change. Some
Behind. So here no one was watching the old
I don't
direction.
have any more splashdowns. Oh my god, that bullet potion. It's here. Still here.
No more jets.
No splashdown. Still coming here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, it was earlier in the wave that I was talking about. Okay, right there. It's behind. So at the new spawn, instead of going over here and just filtering the spawns, I decide to stay back and kill the Goldie, and then push forward with the G-Blaster. It's gonna be the same thing with Sploosh Stappos, 196 even. Where you back up and make sure the Goldie dies before it reaches the person behind you.
Changing. It's
And also you wanna avoid going here when you're aggroed, because that means the spawns from behind is gonna split and go up this ramp, and you're gonna get pincered even more.
tied.
Only do that as a last resort.
It's gonna change. Some
Behind. So here, like, nobody was watching this side, so Goldie made it.
I don't have any more splashdowns. Oh my god, that bullet potion. Some
Behind. So what happens after the splashdown? Or maybe he got pushed off by something. But anyway. So I've shown you this before, but I wanted to go over it again. Like, on High Tide Rush, let's try to use a special every other aggro change to allow the team to breathe and recover ink and run eggs. So, what special to use during the aggro chains? I have the reminder. So, if Jet is aggroed on aggro chains, then the Jet is used. If it's 2 seconds after aggro chains and it's the same direction, use Bomb Rush. If it's 2 seconds after aggro chains and it's the opposite direction, use Ray. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
So,
Yeah, sounds good.
That's what I have been doing lately. I wait aggro change and see if a special is gonna be used.
yeah.
And if not, I use Jet if the aggro is from opposite side, or I use Bomb Rush if it's from the same side, but I tend to wait 2 seconds unless I have Ray.
Yeah. It's good to wait to see if the Jet is aggroed and is gonna use Jet. On High Tide Rush, despite like the special alternation here, you can use Jet when you're aggroed. Because it's not guaranteed that you're gonna get aggroed in the wave. So you should use it whenever possible, I think.
Yeah.
So just remember, Ray is used on the opposite side of a new spawn. Bomb Rush is used on the same direction. It's pretty much the same logic as Grillers. Ray the opposite Griller, Ray the opposite side of Rush.
That makes sense.
So here's High Tide Mothership positions. Rapid Blaster goes to the back and handles the coolers that come over basket here, here, as well as some of the coolers here. And maybe some of the coolers here, as we'll see in a video next. Dapple should be here, because Instead of Sploosh, I want Dapples here because it has slightly more range in case the Rapid Blaster can't reach some coolers here or here. And also it can also kill some coolers here if it wants to. It can drop down here from time to time for an egg.
Alright.
So 96 goes here as the secondary range weapon. Because we ideally want a ranged weapon here on the left and a ranged weapon here on the right. So 96 can just one-shot the coolers that land here and here. Maybe it can hit the cooler that flies over here and make the egg land here. And it can also shoot the eggs here for the sploosh. Maybe it can shoot the cooler here for the dapples and the sploosh. So either sploosh and dapples can go for the cooler here. But just make sure you don't overlap the roll. So if 96 doesn't get the coolers here, sploosh can just throw bombs while it's heading back to basket with an egg. Or if it's going from basket to here. Understood?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So
I'll
this
sit
is
on land
Rapid
this
Blaster
one.
Pro, but it should be the same principle. I have both ways.
Nice.
So remember, while the ray is happening, you should watch out for coolers that are by basket or just in the normal spots. And also I think it'll be good to instantly repel the mothership as soon as possible, so that we can return to running eggs as soon as possible. Because the eggs are already so close to basket from the normal coolers that we don't need to hold off on running eggs for closer basket eggs.
Fine.
There's a clock by me. Nice.
Nice.
So if the caviar is right next to basket, I think it can be good to leave it as an option for the entire team to get it at the end, unless there's just no other eggs around that you could get.
Alright.
This mostly applies to host. Like sometimes host will pile up on the caviar and just deposit it in one go when there's a farther egg to get that they could have gotten. So here's the right side now. So Dapples takes this side. What's the other weapon? Splatdoolies. I think Splatdoolies could stay up here where the 96 would be, because it has a longer range. Though, maybe this is fine as well. And it's not that big of a difference.
I mean, Blob could have stayed on the left.
So there I was just trying to do some snatcher optimization and make it come lower down on the ramp. Because there were other eggs that I needed to get as well. Notice how I'm keeping an eye on my side and not being too worried about the left side. Oh, that was bad. Uh-oh. There's the habit. Yep, I could have gotten that egg down there. Would have been 93.
Boys outplayed.
That's what I meant, where
Outplayed.
the host shouldn't just dogpile on the eggs.
Yeah.
Just the ad timing.
Yeah. So on low tide mothership, I think it should look like this. So Rapid gets the eggs above the water here. 96 can be here and get some of the eggs that maybe land here as well. Dappos could be middle. And can throw bombs at coolers.
Mm-hmm.
Sploose will alternate at middle. It can go in any direction depending on where the eggs are. Though I think Sploosh might be on left and middle more often. How does that sound?
Yeah, it looks ideal to me.
Sure.
Okay. On normal tide. So, at the start, when players are going for far eggs, it'll be good for the ranged weapon to stay at basket and watch the closer coolers. In this case, I think it should be ranged blaster. So here's a diagram, or infographic. Like everyone's going off in different directions to get a far egg, because there's no coolers at basket yet. And then the Rapid Blaster stays at basket to watch any coolers that land there as they're coming back up. So here's the position for later in the wave. I want Rapid Blaster to get the eggs that are on the right. But I don't think it should be dropping down here too often unless there's absolutely nothing up here to get. 96 should be watching the coolers over here, and then Sploosh and Dapple should be wanting eggs and not worrying too much about coolers, because 96 has the range to shoot coolers from here, even from basket. Okay?
Yep.
Though if Rapid Blaster does go down, then 96 could be like, oh, there's a cooler here, I should shoot it, because Rapid Blaster's down there. Or maybe one of the other two weapons can throw a bomb at the cooler. So for seeking, I think this is when we should begin shooting the Goldie. So when it's from here, we shoot the Goldie earlier because there's no lessers on the stage that are spawning. Because this is the first gusher we open, and if it's there, no lessers at all. So we can afford to shoot the Goldie earlier and kill it earlier. If the Goldie is here, which is the second gusher that we open, there's gonna be lessers here. So we push up the egg dropping a little farther up, so that the Goldie dies a little later, and we have eggs that are closer to basket. We're balancing out the amount of lessers with where we drop the eggs. Now if it's here on the right, which is the last gusher that we open, we damage it here. While we can, if we try to do it here, like if we try to kill it here, there's gonna be lessers coming from both of these gushers, and it's gonna be difficult to shoot the Goldie, and it might get away to this gusher. So we wanna get as much damage as early as possible before the Goldie gets blocked by lessers here. But speaking of which, if there are lessers coming here, we should have a special, or at least something done to keep the lessers from bothering the players trying to kill the Goldie.
Yeah.
And also to prevent the Goldie from being blocked by lessers. So I think the DPS weapons shouldn't be using Bomb Rush or Jet to handle lessers. 96 and Rapid can manage to do it. I'd prefer Bomb Rush being used first because it does have slight startup lag with the bombs needing to explode and such.
Mhm.
And also Inkjet can hover above the lessers to also deal exhaust damage and to lure them away from the basket area at the same time. And also Inkjet can just shoot the Goldie as well, while the Inkjet exhaust is killing lessers below it. So Bomb Rush comes first for lessers on this side when the Goldie is here. And if no more Inkjets, use Bomb Rush. And then I want to save Splashdown for the end of the wave for instant clearing when there's less time. So Inkjet and Bomb Rush has a longer duration, and it takes longer for it to kill stuff. So that's better earlier in the wave when we have a lot of time. But at the end of the wave, Splashdown is perfect for that use, to just instantly clear stuff, and we can instantly get moving on to the next thing. Is that
Mhm.
understood?
Yes.
So also, let's say we did all of that, and now here's the next thing we do. The lessers are cleared, the seeker is seeking either 96 or rapid. But there are snatchers that are coming here for the first eggs that drop from this Goldie. So at least one player should be going and dealing with the snatchers and getting the eggs that are over here from the farthest first, and then make their way back to basket with the eggs. So one person should always be going back to the beginning of the egg line to prevent snatchers from getting any eggs. Yes, it's okay
Yeah,
for
I'd say,
Sploosher Dapples to do it. As
yeah, I was
long
gonna say
as
that
they're ready
ideal
for
those
the next
guys.
Goldie. What was that, R?
Yeah, I was gonna say ideally those guys because Rapid Blaster can easily like just pop open the gusher there.
Yeah. 96 is also kind of slow.
Yeah.
So, on low tide and cannons, this is how I think we should prioritize eggs from each direction if we want to go for far eggs. So number one priority, middle eggs. And then number two priority is the left eggs because the angle for the middle cannon to optimize those is kind of awkward. And lastly is number three on the right side because these are the easiest for the cannon to optimize.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a clip of that. So you want to shoot like half a second after they enter the water. And also you want to be aiming at this specific spot. Like the left of the reticle sides is lined up with this platform edge. And that's perfect for shooting them. And also on cannons, if it's wave 2 or wave 3, let's try to treat it like a normal low tide and use jets or rays to deal with stuff so that the cannon isn't overwhelmed by everything. And also here, we can take two cannons so that we distribute the work evenly instead of over-relying on the middle cannon to do everything at once. So let's say there are two piles of far eggs here that can be optimized, and players are busy doing stuff at basket.
Mm-hmm.
One player can decide to take the left cannon and watch these eggs, while the middle cannon focuses on the stuff at basket or on the right. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
It's also the same for the right side. Someone can take the right side when there are white eggs, and then the basket player can focus on left and basket. So here's a normal high tide. So what I want us to do is to have the big firepower weapons, the dappos and the sploos, go to the new spawns. And for 1 or 2 of the weaker weapons, to finish up the eggs from the last spawn. Because it's less demanding for these weaker weapons to just run eggs. Whereas sploos and dappos can just kill everything pretty much. If there's not that much eggs from the previous direction, then only one player needs to run them. I think ideally it could be Rapid Blaster because it does less DPS, I think. So Rapid Blaster should be watching out for eggs from the previous direction. Or 96 as well, depending on how many eggs there are. So here's a good jet. So this is normal tide. But this is the sort of difference that causes us to get 3 more eggs at the end. So there the jet was used to lure the steelhead from low tide, while everyone else could gather eggs from somewhere else, or at basket. So you can see the jet is used early, before the steelhead even appears for everyone else. I think that's the best thing to do, so that the steelhead doesn't trigger prematurely. And so players are notified by the jet activation that it's going to jet the steelhead. So you see the jet be used. And then by now it would have already activated. The steelhead would have already triggered, but because jet is luring it, everyone can be still doing their own thing and collecting eggs while it lures the steelhead closer to bring 3 eggs closer. This is especially going to be helpful on high tide as well. So if mid-wave there's already a bunch of eggs piled up at basket or in an old direction, then jet can be used to lure a steelhead from low tide up to basket. I think that's all for the steelhead lures, though you can use the rail to lure the steelhead up, but jet is just safer.
And
Yeah.
jet brings them closer than the rail.
Yeah. You can even afford to be on top of basket if the players are farther back collecting eggs. So, I want to talk about drizzler luring, especially on high tide. So sometimes I see the drizzler killed here when there's already a bunch of eggs to collect on this side. And it'll take too much time to get them before the drizzler jumps, which is just causing more work for the team. So what we can do is collect the eggs over here or over here. Maybe even over here, and then just back up to be farther away from the player who's luring the drizzler. And then make the drizzler come here so that the eggs are closer to basket without doing much work. And also the drizzler can be killed right above basket so that eggs are even closer. So where you want to be standing is basically just at the edge, corner edge of the metal line here, the metal ring. Is that understood?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
It's the same for drizzlers here, here, and here. If there's other stuff that the team needs to be doing, then you can lure the drizzler instead of killing it. Just make sure you watch for the torpedoes. For this drizzler, You wanna be standing in line with the middle of this ramp here. Like, in line with basket as well. That's pretty much the most you can stand reliably. Just make sure you're not running eggs down here while it's jumping.
Yeah.
And also, I sometimes see people go down here for eggs when the drizzler is about to jump. Make sure you're not, like, as you're climbing up, you're not here, and the drizzler's gonna jump here. Just be aware of that, and maybe take the long way around if you think the drizzler's gonna jump toward your direction while you're climbing up. Also, for seeking, let's try to have the same weapons do the seeking. Let's try to not make people change the roles. Like, if 96 goes left and Rapid goes right, let's have those weapons do it every time. Let's not try to make someone else do it afterwards.
Yeah.
That just makes things predictable. So, actually, you wanna go over the Wave 1 bug for high tide?
Sure. It's good to get a refresher.
Yeah, so on the first seek, it cannot be at this gusher that we usually open first. So we switch over to E, because E also provides information for A. Like, if it's high, then that means it's at A, but if it's low, it means it's at D. Because it can never be at B, so we just know that it's in one of these three gushers.
Yeah.
If on the second seek, it's just the normal routine. None of the gushers have any special rules. However, on the third seek, it cannot be in the same gusher as it was in the second seek. So let's say it was in D on the second seek, and we open B and it's low. We can just skip D and go to E, because we know it's not in D anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not in... If the Goldie on the second seek was in B, then we go back to E like on the first seek. Is that understood?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, let's adjourn. Thanks for coming to the review.
Yeah, thanks for the review.
Okay, I'll see you guys later then.
All right, bye.
Bye.